Look at a global map, and your eyes will naturally drift to a razor-thin, 50-mile strip of land that fundamentally alters the rotation of global wealth, the Isthmus of Panama. Every single year, over 14,000 vessels pass through this narrow artificial cut, ferrying more than 300 million tons of cargo. This 50-mile stretch handles a massive chunk of all maritime trade, moving between the world's largest manufacturing hubs and consumer markets. To truly appreciate the strategic weight of this highway,
You have to understand the brutal reality maritime captains faced before its existence.
to move goods between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, ships had to brave Cape Horn at the freezing, storm-battered southern tip of South America, adding 8,000 miles and weeks of deadly peril to their journeys. Humanity changed history by forcing these two massive oceans to meet. What looks like a simple water channel carved through the jungle is actually one of the greatest engineering marvels ever conceived. It is a kinetic masterpiece, a massive, self-sustaining industrial machine that literally lifts ocean giants over a mountain range using nothing but the raw laws of physics.
Understanding how this intricate system coordinates gravity, water logistics,
And global economics reveals how vulnerable our interconnected world truly is. The construction of the Panama Canal began with a catastrophic failure that proved brute force alone could not conquer the isthmus. In 1881, Ferdinand de Lesseps attempted to carve a sea-level canal directly through the jungle. Wien mistakenly trying to copy his success at the flat, sandy Suez Canal. He ignored a fundamental reality. Panama is a vertical wall of hyper-unstable geology. The primary obstacle was the Culebra Cut, an artificial canyon cut through the continental divide. The terrain here consists of layers of soft shale, clay, and rock under immense pressure. As French steam shovels dug deeper, they undermined the stability of the mountain slopes. Torrential tropical rains saturated the earth, acting as a lubricant. Entire mountain faces liquefied overnight. These massive landslides triggered seismic-like movements, pushing the floor of the excavation back up from the bottom, burying expensive heavy machinery and workers alive. Coupled with the rampant spread of yellow fever and malaria in the stagnant jungle waters, a French venture dissolved into bankruptcy, costing over 22,000 lives, and proving that a sea-level ditch was structurally impossible. When the United States took over construction in 1904, Chief Engineer John Stevens realized they needed a complete technological revolution. First, Chief Sanitary Officer William Gorgas eliminated the biological threat by draining swamps and fumigating buildings to wipe out the disease-carrying mosquitoes. With the workforce protected, Stevens tore up the sea-level plans and executed an audacious new blueprint: lift the ships over the mountains using a gravity-driven lock system.
To achieve this, engineers built the Gatun Dam across the volatile, flood-prone Chagres River.
This created Gatun Lake, the largest artificial body of water on Earth at the time, which sits 85 feet above sea level. Instead of digging down to the ocean, workers only had to excavate the mountain down to the lake level. To move the remaining hundreds of millions of cubic meters of earth from the Culebra Cut, the Americans deployed an unprecedented arsenal of synchronized heavy machinery. 3 specific mechanical innovations formed the technological spine of this industrial assault. The coal-fired steam shovels were steel titans weighing up to 95 tons. Operating on temporary rail lines, their massive buckets could scoop up 8 tons of blasted rock in a single bite, filling an entire wooden flat car in just a few swings. Dozens of these behemoths operated simultaneously, chewing through mountains around the clock. Because the shovels moved so fast, the logistics of the canal relied entirely on dirt trains moving excavated material out of the cut. As the steam shovels dug deeper, The railway tracks had to be constantly moved closer to the rock face. Doing this manually was too slow, so engineers invented the track shifter. This was an ingenious crane-like railway car that hooked onto an entire section of steel track, lifted it clear of the ground, and hydraulically shifted it up to 9 feet sideways in a matter of seconds, preventing terminal logistical gridlock. At the dumping grounds, manual clearing would have destroyed the project's pacing. To solve this, the Americans developed unloaders and spreader cars. Massive plow-like steel unloaders were pulled along the flat cars by steam winches, clearing a 20-car train in under 10 minutes. Immediately behind them, spreader cars with long, adjustable steel wings drove down the rails, flattening, pushing, and leveling the dumped earth away from the tracks to prepare the ground for the next layer of debris.
The completed system functions as a kinetic masterpiece, a literal water elevator for ocean giants.
The entire operation relies on an elegant combination of massive concrete architecture and the fundamental laws of fluid dynamics. The system uses 0 water pumps. It is fueled completely by pure gravity. When a container ship approaches from the ocean, it enters a series of 3-stepped concrete lock chambers. Enormous steel miter gates, up to 82 feet high and weighing 700 tons, swing closed behind the vessel, sealing it inside the chamber. To lift the ship, controllers open massive underground culverts, tunnels as wide as a commercial railroad track, running beneath the lock floors. Driven by gravity alone, millions of gallons of fresh water rush down from Gatun Lake, bubbling up through holes in the chamber floor. As the chamber fills, the ship rises.
Once the water levels equalize with the adjacent chamber, the forward gates swing open.
The ship is pulled forward by electric towing locomotives, known as mulas, which run on tracks along the lock walls to maintain millimetric alignment and prevent the ships from crashing into the concrete. After traversing Gatun Lake and navigating the narrow channel of the Culebra Cut, the ship reaches the descending locks on the other side of the continent. The process reverses. Water drains out of the chambers through gravity into the ocean, lowering the vessel step by step back to sea level. For over a century, the canal dictated global ship design. Vessels were built to the exact maximum dimensions of the original locks, a standard known as Panamax. However, as global trade grew, shipping companies began building mega-container ships that were far too wide and long to fit through the historic chambers. The canal was facing obsolescence. To protect its global dominance, Panama launched the massive third set of locks project, opening in 2016. This expansion was a monumental engineering feat that introduced entirely new, larger lock complexes at both the Atlantic and Pacific ends. Instead of traditional miter gates that swing open, the Neo-Panamax locks utilize massive rolling gates that slide horizontally into concrete recesses, making maintenance significantly easier. Furthermore, these modern locks solved a critical resource problem. While the classic locks flush 50 million gallons of fresh water into the ocean with every single transit, the Neo-Panamax system features innovative water-saving basins. 3 basins are linked to each lock chamber. When a ship is lowered, water is not wasted into the sea. Instead, gravity directs it into these side basins. When the next ship needs to be lifted, the saved water is released back into the chamber. This ingenious engineering loop recycles 60% of the water used per transit, allowing the world's largest megaships to cross the continent without completely draining the canal's vital water supply. Severe droughts have begun to dry out Gatun Lake, forcing strict draft restrictions and slashing daily transits. Because of this environmental bottleneck, shipping conglomerates and geopolitical strategists are no longer looking at the isthmus as a permanent guarantee. Major global players are actively exploring massive overland rail corridors across Mexico, heavily investing in the rapidly opening Arctic Northern Sea Route and expanding capacity through the Suez Canal. The age of relying entirely on a single gravity-powered water elevator through the Central American jungle is fracturing.
The true question for the future of global trade is no longer how we maintain the Panama Canal, but which of these emerging global alternatives will ultimately take its place.